I rewatched the game, got a chance to take some notes, and I'm actually, now that I watched, I'm actually more complimentary of Oklahoma, and I'll give them a lot of credit. I know Longhorn fans, they want to talk about the mistakes, the self-inflicted wounds with Texas, but guys, they weren't unforced errors. Oklahoma came into the game leading the country in interceptions. They got 2 of them. They came into the game leading the Big 12 in takeaways. They got, they got a lot of takeaways. And you look at Dylan Gabriel. I mean, one thing we kept saying before the game, leading up to the game, Texas hadn't faced a real quarterback. They just hadn't. They just hadn't faced a real quarterback yet. And Dylan Gabriel was more comfortable in that system than anybody else. And you saw that comfort level. I mean, Texas could not get him uncomfortable. And they broke tendency. To win big games, you got to break tendency. They did a really good job. Dylan Gabriel was tied for the most rushing attempts he's had in his career. And he's had a long career. And that's the most rushing yards he's had in his career. Texas didn't think, and I didn't think that they would have that many quarterback design runs for him. And they did. I mean, and the quarterback draw was just deadly. An average over 10 yards per attempt running the quarterback draw. It's the quarterback draw alone.
Well, I remember last week, Rod, so much we talked about last week for so many hours of previewing that game. And I went back and looked at the stats of Dylan Gabriel, and he wasn't a running quarterback coming into this game. I mean, if you watch his career at Central Florida and here, he can run, but throughout this year, he hadn't run much. He had run for 2 touchdowns, but both came in the deep red area. And obviously, they broke that out for this game. They had saved it for this game. It's something we talked about. And I agree with you, Rod. I know Longhorn fans don't want to hear it, but at some point, you got to tip your cap to your opponent.
You do.
On that day, Oklahoma was more prepared. They were better coached, and they were more physical than Texas.
Exactly.
They played desperate football. Texas did not. Texas was, if you could eliminate the first quarter for the quarterback, who was brilliant after the first quarter, Quinn Ewers was outstanding for the second, third, and fourth quarters.
Yes, he was.
He was every bit the equal of Dylan Gabriel, but you can't eliminate the first quarter. I mean, the 2 turnovers were critical. The 2 interceptions took points off there, gave points or allowed points for Oklahoma, and then took points off the board after the big fake punt and all the things they did in that first quarter. That first quarter was worth the price of admission. That thing was like, golly, it felt like 3 quarters and 1 quarter all that went on there.
But what the key to the first quarter was, and it's something else that I brought up all week long, Sark admitted early on in the season after the first 3 games, basically 2 of our opponents gave us a look that we didn't see on film, and that's why we started slow, why Quinn started slow. And what did I say? And you played the cut, of Cole McCoy. Saying, just one thing you know about Venables is he's going to show you something you ain't seen on film. It's the way it is. And so, basically we hypothesized the 2 games that Quinn saw something on the field different than what he saw on film, so he wasn't prepared for it, was right and wrong. I mean, you had slow starts there. He still found his groove. I mean, that's the maturity factor that you like to see from Quinn, just like in this game, right? He didn't let it spiral out of control, but the truth of the matter is he started slow, and Xavier Worthy was on the record, and Jonathan Brooks in the postgame on the record saying, they gave us a look we hadn't seen. They gave us a look we hadn't seen. That's the key to the slow start. He's going to find his groove. As E mentioned, he found his groove, but the slow start really is what Oklahoma needed so that they could have kind of a gangbusters first quarter and stay in it. That was key. And I'll give Sark credit too. He coached his butt off in that first quarter. Remember I said you got to match energy and match momentum? He did that multiple times. The fake punt, going for it on 4th down. He knew, oh no, I can't let them monopolize the momentum and the energy. I got to get it back. And that's why that first quarter was so good. Because both of these coaches know how to coach in this game.
Despite his quarterback's mistakes. And then, look, Rod, you said all last week, the Longhorns have multiple paths to victory, and they still almost stole the victory after all the mistakes.
That close.
But OU had 1 path to victory, and they achieved it. I mean, that's huge credit to Brett Venables and his staff.
Damn right.
They needed to force some Texas mistakes, take advantage of those mistakes, and their quarterback had to have a huge game. And Dylan Gabriel's now firmly in the Heisman Trophy debate.
That was a hell of a game.
Now in the top 5. I mean, I know Longhorn fans don't want to hear that, but, man, he played a phenomenal football game. 285 yards and a touchdown. He ran for 115 and the score.
It was a VY type game he had out there.
It was. It was.
It's like, what the heck?
And Oklahoma needed every bit of it. So that's the big picture, I think, macro view of what went on.
Yeah, give them credit. I just want to say give them. We'll talk about Texas.
Sure, we'll get into the mistakes Texas made.
They won that game.
They won the game. They won the game. They were the better team for that day. Now, it doesn't mean they won't be. They'll be the better team if they meet again in Arlington, which I think is a strong possibility.
No doubt.
The way the rest of the conference looks, if you look at the Longhorns schedule, they got a bye week now, 6 weeks to go, and gosh, the 6 opponents have 15 combined losses. I mean, there's not a juggernaut on the rest of their schedule. The best team left as far as record through the first half of the college football season are BYU, right? And BYU's coming here.
Challenge, yeah.
But Oklahoma has earned the right. We questioned Oklahoma because they hadn't played any great competition. But as we said a lot last week, that allowed them to put together a game plan that could maximize their ability to beat Texas, and they did. They did just that. They absolutely did, and their quarterback was outstanding. But I think all of us who are college football fans would hope for a rematch for a Big 12 championship in 6 weeks or 7 weeks from now. Longhorns have a chance to make that happen because it absolutely could. But one path to victory for Oklahoma. They executed it. Props to Venables. Props to their side. And then let's see them again in Arlington, I think would be the mantra for the Longhorns moving forward.
Yeah, I remember when we did the in-game live watch, the term I kept using was his team is playing out of character. Right?
Yes, Texas out of character in a big way.
And Sark said in the postgame, he's like, yeah, we were just out of character. They were. Right? And you got to give OU credit because they put Texas in a position where, they were their own worst enemy at times. But, man, in the Texas-OU game, and Texas had more experienced players. Remember, that was one of the advantages, too. We're like, oh, man, Texas, they got guys who played in this game. Oklahoma's got a lot of new guys, 40-something new guys on their roster who know nothing about the environment of the Texas-OU game. And that was supposed to be an advantage for Texas, but it wasn't. They were the more penalized team, so they were the more indisciplined team in that environment. They let their emotions get the best of them. A lot of the times, Oklahoma did not. We thought Texas was going to win the lines of scrimmage. Clearly, Texas is going to win the lines of scrimmage. They got bigger bodies. They've been battle-tested. They went up against Alabama in Tuscaloosa and won the lines of scrimmage. Surely they're going to beat Oklahoma in the trenches. They did not. That was not a guarantee. They did not just dominate Oklahoma. I don't know if it was a push or whatever. They did not dominate Oklahoma in the lines of scrimmage, so you can't say they won that, even though we thought that would be an advantage. And Quinn Ewers, I thought he played a great game, but truth is, he didn't outplay Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel had the best game he might have played in his career. Right?
It was one for the ages.
Yeah, but he didn't outplay Dylan Gabriel, so that's a big part of it. And the injuries. All right, they had injuries too. By the way, they had multiple starters go down. Texas had multiple starters go down. That's a part of a physical contest. So let's not make tons of excuses about that. There's a lot of things that Texas assumed would be an advantage were not an advantage in this contest. They hadn't been a turnover-prone team, but going up against Oklahoma, a more opportunistic defense, they turned the football over. And they still found ways to bounce back. But you've got to give more props to Oklahoma in the way. And by the way, I'll give my criticism of Sark. I don't have much to criticize. Honestly, I thought he did a good job learning how to coach in this game. His start was a little predictable. And he was very predictable on the goal line. Right, the goal line stand for Oklahoma. That was too predictable. So being predictable was probably my biggest complaint. And the clock management at the end of the game. Now looking back on it, it was bad. You got to find a way to to squeeze a little bit more time off of that clock. That's an indictment on his feel of the game or lack thereof. Everybody knew Dylan Gabriel. You don't need to give that guy the ball back. He's like, you don't need to give that guy the ball back, and that he allowed him to get. And I know you got to score, but there were in terms of situational football, there were plenty of opportunities for him to milk probably 40 more seconds off the clock.
Well, I think you can criticize Sark for the game, the clock management at the end of both halves, right? Because the Longhorns had the ball and control approaching halftime, knowing OU was going to get the ball coming out of the half, and they ended up kicking a field goal there after I wasn't a big fan of the Jordan Whittington end around in the red area at the end of the first half, and that gave Oklahoma a chance to go down and kick a field goal before the first half ended. Yeah. And then, look, I mean, this is where when you say injuries are not an excuse, but the Longhorns were in control of that game, and Oklahoma was tired. I mean, their defense was flat gassed, and the Longhorns ran an RPO play on a second down with the clock running that. When Jake Majors got hurt in the first half, they put in Connor Robertson to play center, and he did not have a great game. I mean, 62 wasn't really ready to play. It didn't feel like. Now he was put in a tough spot.
That's a tough spot, man.
Because remember the Longhorns. Here's where the Longhorns, where injuries do impact you. It's not an excuse. But Cole Hudson would have been the backup center, right? if Cole Hudson were healthy, who the Longhorns expect to get back for the Houston game, he had been the cross-trained player to play center if Jake Majors went down. He wasn't available, so you're down to your third-string center essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not have a great game. And there was a play action or an RPO play where he got beat and missed a block, and it turned into a sack. So then there's a negative play. So now it's 2nd and 14, Rod. Second and 14. So the Longhorns ran the ball once. So on a first down play, 2nd and 14. That's where the clock management at the end of the game hurt. If the Longhorns just run the ball there, don't do the RPO thing. Just hand it off. Let the clock keep running. I think you're exactly right, because I think Oklahoma was dead in the water. They were tired.
Yeah.
Instead, the quarterback decided to keep it on the RPO, get sacked, and Oklahoma then took the advantage because they took a timeout. Texas had to make a decision of what we want to do here, and Sark decided, okay, let's not give this away. We got to get the field goal. We got to take the lead.
Because he wasn't in field goal range at the time. You were like 6 yards away.
Right, and you got Bert
Auburn's
that's
territory.
right. So the field goal the sack knocks you back out to where you're not in comfortable field goal range anymore. That sack was critical. That was a critical play in the game, and it just so happens that happens to a young guy that's in a big spot for the first time, and Oklahoma made a play, and that really forced. I thought Texas was going to do exactly what you said. Felt like doing the in-game watch and watching in real time. Okay, because you're kind of playing strategy with Texas. Okay, they can milk this thing, get one more first down.
Mm-hmm.
They're kicking the field goal in the last play of the game.
Yep.
Oklahoma's out of timeouts, and that sack was really big in the play, and because it set Longhorns back. Then they just had to get back into makeable field goal range and not turn the ball over. Bert Auburn nails the kick, and there was too much time. Then you can talk about the defensive effort, going the other way because
but the thing is, you shouldn't have put your defense in that position.
You're right about that.
Have you been watching that game? Right?
Yeah.
You should have been thinking, hell no. No. I cannot let my defense try to decide this game going up against that guy and the way he's playing. Sometimes I feel of the game. Sometimes you got to throw out the strategy and go, okay, I got 3.5 quarters of data. Right?
So you think should they have gone for it on fourth down?
No, you should have milked more time off the clock.
Yeah.
Think about this. I'll give you the times when the ball was snapped on that drive. All right, that last offensive drive for Texas. After you get the X-Man reception, right? It was a 2nd and 10. X-Man gets a 12-yard reception. You start 1st and 10. That's when you start going up tempo, which I understand. You're going up tempo because he saw something he liked in the Oklahoma secondary. They had an injury. Remember, they moved Key Lawrence. They had multiple injuries in the secondary. They moved Key Lawrence to corner, and Sark said, I like it. I'm going. Totally get it. But sometimes you can go tempo but not go up tempo. Here's when they snapped the ball. They snapped it 28 seconds left on the clock. These are the downs consecutively. 28 seconds left on the clock. 28 seconds left on the clock. 27 left on the clock. 23 left on the clock. 24, 34. Yep. You just take 5 to 8 extra seconds right there. Then how much time do they got the ball with 77 seconds left. It took them a minute to get down the field. You got the ball left with 15, 16 seconds left?
Yeah.
Dude, 5 more seconds each down. 5 more seconds each down. 5 more seconds each down. That would have been 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 30 seconds right there. They get the ball back with what? 30-something seconds left? Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's it bothers me. That's I know you liked what you saw, but you didn't have to go up tempo. Just go tempo. Just go a little slower. Just a little slower.
Well, and I will say this to everything you just said is right on. But if you're like, as I was watching and then rewatch, Oklahoma was gassed, and Oklahoma's defensive line on a lot of plays on that drive.
5 seconds wouldn't have mattered.
I know.
5 to 8 seconds would not have mattered in that time of gas. I agree with you, but 5 to 8 seconds would have mattered more taking that time off the clock for them.
In hindsight, 100%. But
I don't even know about hindsight. I know as a coach, that's your job.
You're right. Let me say that in real time, there were 3 or 4 snaps on that series where the ball was snapped and Oklahoma's defensive line was still standing up. Like they weren't even down into their stance yet. They were trying to take advantage of a tired football team and drive this thing down and score. You're right. Again, the negative play on second down in the high red was a critical play, and that's a play they made, and that's everything you're saying is right. I'm just playing the devil's advocate, watching through the game that, okay, we got a tired team, we got a wounded team here. We're about to go down and steal this game. We're not going to settle for a field goal. We're going to stick this in the end zone and win this football game. And circumstances happen. But you're right. Once that happens, now you go back and say, man, we should have taken 5 or 8 seconds off of every play. But again, I was actually doing the in-game watch and noting with Ian Boyd as we were watching the game. Look at Oklahoma's defense; they're like still up, like their defense is standing up when the ball snapped because they're not getting down in time. Texas was trying to take it to them, but obviously Oklahoma took the advantage, and they end up getting a big sack and a big moment, and the Longhorns then...
Yeah, they were so tired, then why'd they get the sack? That's my point. So take the extra 5 seconds. The time mattered more. The time would have mattered more. You're right. You still, they still not making a play. Take the 5 seconds. Allow them to get a sack. It's okay. Go tempo, not up tempo. Well, that was a dang coaching mistake, man. That was Coach Steven. That was Coach Steven rearing his ugly head at the wrong time. You got him early in the game. You got him on that goal line where he decided, I'm just going to go jumbo the whole damn time. You got Coach Steven there, and you got him late in the game. You didn't get Coach Steven for extended periods of time, but you got him at the wrong time.
And Brett Venables now 1-1 in this matchup. This is not going on 4th and 4 with 1:20-ish left. Was the most gutless call I've seen in recent football memory. Well, look, I mean, you could have gone for it on 4th and 4, but again, if you don't get it, and you don't get points.
Different conversation.
I mean, I do think once the circumstances, went the way Rod just laid them out, and the sack happened, and you got to second and negative, I think you had to take a lead. I mean, you had to take the opportunity to get the lead.
I agree with that.
And give your team a chance.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about you should have never given the ball back is fair, but at the same time, once they got the ball back, I didn't, the defensive effort in that spot was. There's one thing to play a prevent defense, Rod, but you still got 8 guys to cover, and you didn't cover anybody.
No, that's true. And Jalen Ford, Oklahoma still would have gotten the ball back if you'd have milked a little bit more time, but they just wouldn't have had as much. They wouldn't have had as much time. They would have been more panicked. They'd have been more desperate.
Correct, and they had no timeouts.
Timeouts. Okay, so to your point, Jalen Ford said they played man coverage at the end, and they were playing 2 high man, so 2 deep safeties over the top, playing man coverage underneath. And he said they got more aggressive the closer that Oklahoma got to the goal line, and there was only 5 plays, 6 if you count the PI. The only time they blitzed was the last play.
Yeah. They
blitzed the cornerback from that side. And then David Benda, who basically has admitted that it was him who made the mental mistake, he did not. They call it rolling the coverage or bumping the coverage. He did not get the roll or the bump audible, so he let his man go.
The man came in motion and wasn't checked off. Yeah, wasn't checked off. And he and Keaton Crawford kind of miscommunicated on who's taking who.
Jaron Thompson was in there, and it was Derek Williams who was checking the coverage, who was bumping it over, and he gave the signal. You can clearly see on the film, Derek Williams is giving the hand signal. David Benda never looks up. He never looks up at all. He's looking straight in the backfield. Eyes never look up, and it's like, man, as a veteran player, you got to be aware of the situation, man. We're communicating. We got checks and audibles happening. He never looks up, and then Jaron Thompson takes his man, and then you guys know how it is.
All right, so there you go. We'll talk about it all morning long. The autopsy of a disappointing loss. Longhorns made a lot of mistakes, but still had the lead with 1:22 to go. But the loss is going to sting. But doesn't end the season. Longhorns still have an opportunity to play their way back. If they win out from here, 6 wins, they'll play in the Big 12 title game, likely against Oklahoma, and get a rematch with that team. But props to OU. They were the more physical team. They were the more prepared team and took advantage of Texas's uncharacteristic mistakes. 9 penalties. I'm counting 4 turnovers, Rod, because of the goal line stand. I think that's 4 turnovers.
No, you're right. I agree with you.
I think that's a 4th turnover.
That was crucial. Because honestly, that was the most heartbreaking one.
Yeah, that was demoralizing.
That
you couldn't move them for a foot and a half.
God, that's Texas OU. The game on the line. Hey, Longhorn fans, Longhorns didn't deserve to win. This is how you'll feel better about it. You had 4 downs on the goal line against Oklahoma, essentially to win that game, the way it works out now in retrospect. And they stopped you 4 times in a row, even with Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat there, big humans. You're paying for them. They're huge. You have the biggest O-line in the Big 12. Massive. What's the point of big humans when you can't move nobody on the goal line? So when you look at it that way, Texas didn't deserve to win. You don't deserve to win a football game. Any coach will tell you, if you can't get 1 yard on the goal line against your rival in the biggest game of the year, you didn't deserve to win. It's okay. They'll get it next time.